The alien queen, Zarnitha, sat on her crystalline throne in the grand hall of Xylos Prime. Her elongated figure shimmered faintly under the bioluminescent glow of the palace walls, which pulsed like a living entity. She leaned forward slightly, her six-fingered hands clasped together as she regarded her daughter with an expression that could only be described as skeptical confusion. "That human?" Zarnitha questioned again, her voice echoing through the chamber like a soft but commanding ripple. Her antennae twitched ever so slightly, a sign of agitation among their kind. Around them, courtiers and advisors stood frozen, unsure whether to intervene or remain silent witnesses to what was surely about to become one of the most scandalous moments in royal history. Princess Lyria, clad in flowing robes made from threads spun by the rarest creatures of their planet's jungles, stood tall despite the weight of her mother's disapproval. Her eyes sparkled with determination, reflecting not just rebellion but something deeper, something almost tender. "Yes," she said firmly, meeting her mother's gaze without flinching. "He is the one I want." Murmurs erupted around the room, quickly silenced by a sharp glance from the queen. The very idea seemed preposterous. Humans were primitive beings at best, barely scratching the surface of interstellar diplomacy. They had no place in the intricate web of galactic politics, let alone within the sacred halls of the royal family. Yet there it was. Lyria's declaration hung heavy in the air, daring anyone to challenge it further. Zarnitha exhaled slowly, her breath creating ripples in the energy field surrounding her throne. "Explain yourself," she commanded, leaning back now, her posture regal yet tense. "You know the implications of such attachment. Our people will never accept him." Lyria stepped closer, undeterred by the icy atmosphere. "Mother," she began, her tone softening just enough to betray vulnerability beneath her resolve. "It isn't about acceptance or politics or even logic. It's about—" She paused, searching for words that wouldn't diminish the enormity of what she felt. "It's about connection, something real, something pure." Her words struck a chord somewhere deep within Zarnitha, though the queen refused to show it outwardly. Instead, she raised a hand, signaling for silence before anyone else dared speak. "This human," she said after a moment, her voice colder than before, "has no understanding of our ways, our culture, our responsibilities. How can you expect him to fulfill any role here?" Before Lyria could respond, the doors to the grand hall hissed open, revealing Torvax, the head of the royal guard. His armor gleamed menacingly, each plate etched with runes symbolizing loyalty and duty. He strode forward purposefully, stopping just short of the dais where the queen and princess stood. Bowing deeply, he addressed Zarnitha. "Your Majesty," he began, his deep voice resonating throughout the chamber. "There are reports of unusual activity near the borders of Sector 7. Scouts have spotted unauthorized ships, human vessels." A collective gasp rippled through the gathered crowd, followed by hushed whispers. Sector 7 was sacred territory, home to ancient ruins believed to hold secrets vital to the survival of their species. For humans to trespass there was not merely disrespectful. It was dangerous. Zarnitha rose abruptly, her movements fluid yet commanding. "Summon the council immediately," she ordered, turning toward Torvax. Then, glancing at Lyria, she added sharply, "And bring me this human you seem so enamored with. Perhaps then we shall see if your feelings are as genuine as you claim, or if they are not but childish infatuation." Lyria clenched her fists briefly, her heart pounding against her chest. She knew what awaited them next would test everything she believed in, and perhaps force her to confront truths she wasn't ready to face. But as she watched her mother sweep out of the room, trailed by Torvax and several advisors, she couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, love could transcend even the vast distances between worlds. In another part of the galaxy, aboard a battered but functional starship called the Wanderer, a young man named Kalen adjusted the controls with practiced ease. His dark hair stuck up in odd directions, evidence of countless restless nights spent navigating uncharted territories. Beside him sat Captain Rhea, a seasoned pilot whose reputation for daring exploits preceded her wherever she went. "You sure about this, kid?" Rhea asked, raising an eyebrow as she glanced over at Kalen. Her boots rested casually on the dashboard, a stark contrast to his rigid posture. "Sector 7 ain't exactly tourist-friendly." Kalen nodded, his jaw set firmly. "I don't care about friendly," he replied, tapping coordinates into the navigation panel. "I care about answers." Rhea chuckled dryly, lighting up a small cigarillo. Smoke curled lazily around her head as she studied him thoughtfully. Answers, huh? You're starting to sound like one of those conspiracy nuts back on Terra Nova. What makes you think Sector 7 holds anything worth risking our necks for? His fingers paused momentarily over the console, hesitating before continuing. Because someone sent me a message, he admitted quietly. Encrypted, anonymous. All it said was, come to Sector 7. Find the truth. And whoever sent it knew things about my past. Things nobody should know unless they've been watching you. Rhea finished for him, blowing smoke rings absent-mindedly. Yeah, sounds legit. Totally normal behavior for a sane person. Despite her sarcasm, Kalen ignored her jibe. He had learned long ago not to rely on others' opinions when it came to matters of the heart or gut instinct. Ever since receiving that cryptic transmission, he'd felt drawn to Sector 7, as though some invisible thread connected him to whatever secrets lay hidden there. Whether it was destiny, paranoia, or sheer stupidity driving him, he couldn't say, but he did know one thing. Ignoring the pull would mean losing himself entirely. As the Wanderer approached the edge of Sector 7, alarms blared suddenly, startling both occupants. Red lights flashed across the cockpit, bathing them in ominous hues. Kalen's hands flew across the controls, trying to stabilize the ship as it lurched violently. What the hell is going on? Rhea shouted, grabbing onto her seat as another wave of turbulence rocked the vessel. On the main screen, a fleet of sleek alien ships appeared out of nowhere, surrounding them like predators closing in on prey. Their hulls glinted menacingly, weapons primed and ready. Kalen swallowed hard, gripping the steering yoke tightly. Looks like we're not alone, he muttered grimly, bracing himself for whatever came next. Back on Xylos Prime, Princess Lyria paced anxiously outside the council chambers, her mind racing with possibilities. If Kalen truly was headed for Sector 7, then time was running out, not just for him but for all of them. Whatever secrets lay buried there, they threatened to unravel far more than just diplomatic relations between species. They held the potential to change everything, and not necessarily for the better. Inside the council chambers, Queen Zarnitha presided over heated debates among her advisors, each offering conflicting strategies for dealing with the human incursion. Some argued for immediate military intervention, while others cautioned restraint, fearing retaliation might escalate into full-blown war. Through it all, Zarnitha remained silent, her piercing gaze fixed on the holographic map hovering above the central table. Finally, she spoke, her voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. Enough, she declared, silencing the room instantly. Turning to Torvax, she gave a single nod. Prepare a squad. We leave within the hour. Torvax bowed deeply once more, his expression unreadable behind his helmet. As he turned to carry out her orders, Zarnitha rose from her seat, her presence commanding absolute attention. We will retrieve these humans ourselves, she announced, her tone leaving no room for argument, and ensure they understand the gravity of their actions. Lyria watched silently from the doorway, her heart sinking with every word. Whatever happened next, she realized, would define not only her future, but the fate of two worlds colliding in ways neither side could fully comprehend. Far away, aboard the Wanderer, Kalen stared at the alien ships encircling them, his pulse quickening. The lead vessel transmitted a signal, its tone cold and mechanical. A voice crackled over the comms, speaking in halting but intelligible galactic standard. Surrender your vessel. You are trespassing in restricted space. Rhea groaned audibly, tossing her cigarillo aside. Well, kid, guess this is where we find out how much trouble we're really in. Kalen squared his shoulders, determination etched into every line of his face. Not surrendering, he replied simply, keying in a new set of commands. Not until I get answers. With that, he engaged the ship's thrusters, sending the Wanderer hurtling toward the unknown, and straight into the heart of danger itself. The alien fleet moved swiftly, their ships maneuvering with precision that suggested centuries of training. Energy beams lanced through space, narrowly missing the Wanderer as Kalen executed evasive maneuvers that left Rhea clutching her seat with white-knuckled intensity. You're insane, she yelled over the din of alarms and explosions. We're outnumbered 10-1. Kalen didn't respond, his focus entirely on keeping the ship intact. Sweat dripped down his forehead as he pushed the engines to their limits, weaving between the enemy vessels like a leaf caught in a storm. Each near miss felt like a reprieve snatched from the jaws of disaster, but he knew it was only a matter of time before they landed a direct hit. Then, without warning, a massive energy pulse surged outward from one of the larger alien ships. It struck the Wanderer dead-on, disabling its propulsion systems and sending the vessel spiraling uncontrollably. Emergency lights flickered on inside the cockpit, casting eerie shadows across Kalen's grim face. "We're sitting ducks now," Rhea muttered, frantically working to restore power. "Any bright ideas?" Kalen clenched his teeth, staring at the rapidly approaching alien boarding craft. "Yeah," he said finally, reaching for a concealed compartment beneath his seat. Pulling out a compact device, he activated it with a press of a button. Instantly, holographic projections filled the cabin, displaying schematics of the alien ships along with detailed analyses of their weaponry. "What is that?" Rhea demanded, eyeing the device skeptically. "A little gift from the same person who sent me the message," Kalen explained tersely. "It's supposed to hack into their systems and create vulnerabilities. If I can upload this program..." "If..." Rhea interrupted incredulously. "Kid, do you even know what you're doing?" "Not really," he admitted, typing furiously. But desperate times call for desperate measures. As the alien boarding party breached the airlock, Kalen initiated the upload sequence. The device hummed softly, its lights blinking erratically as it attempted to interface with the alien technology. Outside, laser fire illuminated the darkness of space, painting a chaotic tableau of battle. Meanwhile, aboard the flagship of the alien fleet, Queen Zarnitha observed the unfolding skirmish with growing frustration. Her forces had vastly underestimated the resourcefulness of the human vessel, and now they were paying the price. Turning to Torvax, she issued a terse command. "Send reinforcements. This ends now." Torvax relayed the order, his voice calm despite the tension radiating from the bridge crew. Within moments, additional ships joined the fray, their combined firepower overwhelming the Wanderer. Yet even as the odds tipped decisively against them, Kalen refused to give up. His fingers danced across the keyboard, sweat stinging his eyes as he fought to complete the upload. Back in the palace, Princess Lyria paced nervously, unable to shake the feeling that events were spiraling out of control. When a messenger arrived bearing urgent news from the front lines, her stomach churned with dread. Taking the tablet offered by the servant, she scanned the report hastily. "The human ship has been disabled," it read. "Queen Zarnitha orders immediate capture." Lyria's heart sank. Without hesitation, she sprinted toward the hangar bay, determined to reach the scene before it was too late. Along the way, she encountered resistance from guards attempting to bar her path, but her royal authority prevailed. Reaching the hangar, she commandeered a personal shuttle and launched herself into orbit, her mind consumed by thoughts of Kalen. If she didn't act quickly, the consequences would be catastrophic. Not just for him, but for the fragile hope of unity between their peoples. As her shuttle hurtled through the void, she whispered a silent prayer, hoping against hope that love could somehow triumph over fear and prejudice. Above Sector 7, the battle reached its crescendo. Alien soldiers stormed the Wanderer, their weapons trained on Kalen and Rhea as they emerged from the cockpit. Hands raised in surrender, Kalen locked eyes with the lead officer, his expression defiant. "You won't win," he said boldly, surprising even himself with the conviction in his voice. "Whatever you're hiding here, it's bigger than you realize. And when the truth comes out, your empire will crumble." The officer sneered, raising his weapon menacingly. Before he could act, however, a familiar voice rang out over the comms. "Stand down, by order of the royal family." Everyone froze, turning toward the source of the transmission. On the main view screen, Princess Lyria appeared, her image projected with crystal clarity. Her gaze swept across the assembled forces, lingering briefly on Kalen before addressing the leader directly. "Captain Vrelth," she commanded, her tone leaving no room for defiance. "Cease hostilities at once. The human is under my protection." Vrelth hesitated, clearly torn between obeying the princess and following his original orders. Sensing his indecision, Lyria pressed further. "Do you dare disobey a direct command from your sovereign?" "From me." The threat carried weight, and Vrelth lowered his weapon reluctantly. Stepping forward, he saluted stiffly. "As you wish, your highness." Lyria nodded curtly, then turned her attention to Kalen. Despite the circumstances, relief washed over her features as their eyes met. For a fleeting moment, amidst the chaos and danger, they shared an unspoken understanding, a promise that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. But unbeknownst to them all, deep within the ruins of Sector 7, ancient mechanisms stirred to life. Silent for millennia, they responded to the intrusion, awakening powers long forgotten by time. As energy coursed through dormant conduits, a low hum reverberated through the planetoid, heralding the beginning of something far greater and far more perilous than anyone could have anticipated. For now, though, the immediate crisis had passed. With tensions diffused, at least temporarily, the stage was set for revelations that would reshape destinies and redefine alliances across galaxies. And as the dust settled, one truth became abundantly clear. Nothing would ever be the same again. The tension aboard the Wanderer was palpable as Princess Lyria stepped onto the battered ship, her regal presence commanding instant silence. Her eyes locked with Kaelin's, and for a moment, it felt like the universe had shrunk to just the two of them. The connection they shared transcended words. It was raw, electric, undeniable. Rhea, standing nearby with arms crossed, watched the exchange unfold with an unreadable expression on her face. She shifted uncomfortably, her jaw tightening ever so slightly. "Princess," Kaelin finally managed, breaking the spell. His voice carried both awe and gratitude. "You didn't have to." "I did," Lyria interrupted softly, taking a step closer. Her tone held no room for argument but brimmed with emotion. "I couldn't let them take you." Rhea cleared her throat loudly, drawing their attention. "Well, isn't this cozy?" she quipped, forcing a smirk that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Glad we could all bond over near-death experiences." Kaelin glanced at her, sensing something off in her demeanor but unable to pinpoint what. "Rhea, I owe you everything," he said earnestly. "If it weren't for your piloting skills, we wouldn't even be here." Yeah, Rhea muttered, waving him off dismissively. "Don't get sappy on me now, kid. We're not out of the woods yet." She turned away abruptly, busying herself with inspecting the damaged control panel despite knowing full well there wasn't much she could do until repairs were underway. Lyria observed the dynamic between the two humans with sharp intuition. There was history there, something deeper than mere camaraderie. A flicker of unease stirred within her chest, though she quickly suppressed it. This wasn't the time for jealousy or doubt. They had bigger problems to contend with. As if on cue, Queen Zarnitha's voice crackled through the comm system, cold and authoritative. "Daughter, return to the flagship immediately. Bring the human with you. This matter requires resolution beyond your authority." Lyria hesitated, glancing at Kaelin. He gave her a reassuring nod, though his own uncertainty lingered beneath the surface. "We'll figure this out," he murmured. With a deep breath, Lyria activated the comm link. "Understood, Mother. But know this, any harm to him will not go unanswered." There was a long pause before Zarnitha replied, her tone clipped. "See that you remember your place, Lyria. Do not test my patience further." Once the transmission ended, Lyria turned back to Kaelin and Rhea. "We need to move quickly. My mother won't wait forever, and neither will whatever forces are awakening in Sector 7. Rhea snorted. "Forces? You mean the glowing ruins and creepy hums?" "Yeah, because those always end well." Ignoring her sarcasm, Lyria pressed on. "Time is critical. Follow me. We'll discuss more once we're aboard my shuttle." Back on Xylos Prime, the royal palace buzzed with whispered rumors about the princess's unprecedented intervention. Courtiers exchanged furtive glances, speculating wildly about the implications of her actions. Some praised her bravery, others condemned her recklessness. Amidst the chaos, Torvax stood guard outside the council chambers, his stoic expression betraying nothing of his thoughts. Inside, Queen Zarnitha sat alone on her crystalline throne, her fingers drumming rhythmically against its armrests. Her mind raced with possibilities, each one more troubling than the last. If word spread that her daughter harbored feelings for a human, a mere primitive creature, the monarchy would face backlash unlike anything seen in generations. Worse still, the secrets buried in Sector 7 posed existential threats to their entire civilization. Could the human truly be connected to those mysteries? Her musings were interrupted by the arrival of Captain Vrelth, who bowed deeply upon entering. "Your Majesty," he began, his voice steady despite the weight of his report. "The prisoner, Kaelin, is en route to the palace under heavy escort. Shall I prepare the interrogation chamber?" Zarnitha considered the question carefully. Torture might yield answers, but brute force rarely worked on beings driven by conviction rather than fear. Besides, Lyria's attachment complicated matters. Any harm inflicted on Kalen risked fracturing their already strained relationship irreparably. No, she decided after a moment. Not yet. Place him in the guest quarters under constant surveillance. Ensure he remains comfortable, but restricted. Vrelf nodded obediently. And the princess? A shadow crossed Zarnitha's face. Summon her to my chambers. It is time we addressed this infatuation of hers. Meanwhile, aboard Lyria's sleek shuttle, Kalen found himself seated beside her, while Rhea occupied the pilot's seat up front. The journey back to Xylos Prime offered little respite from the mounting tension. Every glance Lyria stole at Kalen filled Rhea with a mixture of frustration and sorrow. She had spent years traveling alongside him, sharing countless adventures, yet never dared to act on her feelings. Now, watching him fall for someone else, and not just anyone but an alien princess, felt like a betrayal. You really think your mom's gonna listen? Rhea asked suddenly, her tone sharper than intended. Both Lyria and Kalen looked up, startled by the interruption. She has no choice, Lyria replied evenly, though her grip on the armrest betrayed her nerves. The truth must come out, regardless of personal stakes. Rhea rolled her eyes. Oh sure, because every ruler throughout history has been totally cool with inconvenient truths blowing up their lives. Kalen frowned, leaning forward slightly. Rhea, what's wrong? You've been acting weird since Lyria showed up. Her hands tightened around the controls, knuckles whitening. For a heartbeat, she considered lying, brushing it off with another sarcastic remark. Instead, she sighed heavily, her shoulders slumping. Nothing's wrong, Kalen. Just tired, I guess. He studied her closely, concern etched into his features. You can talk to me, you know, about anything. Rhea forced a laugh, though it sounded hollow even to her own ears. Yeah, well, maybe later. Right now, we've got bigger fish to fry. Silence settled over the cabin once more, thick and suffocating. Lyria reached out tentatively, placing a hand on Kalen's arm. The simple gesture ignited a spark of warmth that spread through his body, chasing away some of the lingering anxiety. Yet, even as he basked in her touch, guilt gnawed at the edges of his conscience. He cared deeply for Rhea, not romantically perhaps, but certainly as a friend and partner. Hurting her was never part of the plan. As the shuttle descended toward the opulent spires of the royal palace, none of them could shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap laid not by enemies, but by fate itself. Upon landing, Kalen was whisked away by guards under strict orders to keep him isolated but unharmed. Lyria accompanied him briefly, offering reassurances before being summoned to meet with her mother. Left alone in the luxurious yet confining guest quarters, Kalen paced restlessly, his mind racing with questions about what lay ahead. Down the hall, Rhea leaned against a wall, arms crossed and scowl firmly in place. Watching Kalen disappear behind guarded doors left a bitter taste in her mouth. She hated feeling powerless, especially when it came to protecting those she cared about. Pushing off the wall, she strode purposefully toward the palace gardens, needing fresh air to clear her head. Unbeknownst to her, Lyria emerged from the council chambers moments later, visibly shaken by her confrontation with Zarnitha. The queen's words still echoed in her mind. Love is a luxury we cannot afford. Each syllable cut deeper than any blade, challenging everything Lyria believed about her role as princess, and as a sentient being capable of free will. Spotting Rhea in the distance, Lyria hesitated. Part of her wanted to retreat, to avoid further conflict. But another part recognized the importance of addressing the growing rift between them. Steeling herself, she approached cautiously. You look like you could use company, Lyria ventured, her tone tentative. Rhea glanced sideways, surprise flickering across her face. Shouldn't you be busy playing diplomat or whatever? Lyria sighed, joining her by the railing overlooking the garden. My mother made her position clear, but I refuse to abandon what I feel. Rhea snorted. Feelings don't exactly pay the bills, sweetheart. A beat passed before Lyria responded, her voice soft but firm. No, they don't, but they make life worth living. Tell me, Rhea, what would you sacrifice for love? The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. Rhea stared out at the horizon, jaw clenched tightly. When she finally spoke, her words were barely above a whisper. More than I care to admit. They stood there together in uneasy silence, united by unspoken understanding yet divided by circumstances beyond their control. As twilight descended over Xylos Prime, casting shimmering hues across the landscape. Both women knew the road ahead would demand sacrifices neither was fully prepared to make. Somewhere within the depths of Sector 7, the ancient mechanisms continued to awaken, their hum growing louder with each passing moment. Whatever secrets they guarded, they remained tantalizingly out of reach for now. But soon enough, the truth would emerge, unraveling destinies and testing loyalties in ways none could foresee. And amidst it all, love burned brightly, defiant and dangerous, threatening to consume everything in its path. The days that followed were a whirlwind of tension, negotiation, and quiet moments of introspection. Kalen found himself caught between two powerful women, Princess Lyria, whose love burned with the intensity of a star, and Rhea, whose loyalty and unspoken affection ran deeper than he had ever realized. Both had saved him in their own ways. Both had stood by him when the universe seemed determined to tear them apart. Yet, as much as his heart yearned for connection, he couldn't ignore the growing sense of responsibility weighing on his shoulders. It all came to a head one evening in the royal gardens of Xylos Prime. The air was cool, carrying the faint scent of alien blooms that shimmered under the twin moon's light. Kalen sat alone on a bench near the edge of the garden, staring out at the distant horizon where Sector 7 loomed like a silent sentinel. His mind churned with thoughts of what lay ahead, not just for him, but for everyone involved. He didn't hear Rhea approach until she spoke, her voice softer than usual. "You look like you're trying to solve the mysteries of the cosmos." Kalen glanced up, managing a tired smile. "Maybe I am." Rhea slid onto the bench beside him, her usual bravado replaced by something more vulnerable. For a long moment, neither said anything, content to simply sit together beneath the stars. Finally, she broke the silence. "I've been thinking," she began hesitantly, "about us, about everything." Kalen turned to face her fully, sensing the weight behind her words. "What about it?" She sighed, rubbing the back of her neck, a nervous habit he'd noticed over the years. "Look, I'm not great at this mushy stuff, okay? But here's the thing. I care about you, Kalen. More than I should, probably. And yeah, seeing you with Lyria, it hurts. It does. But I also know how rare it is to find someone who makes you feel alive, who makes you want to be better. If anyone deserves that, it's you." Her honesty hit him like a tidal wave, stirring emotions he hadn't fully processed. Before he could respond, another voice joined them. "And if anyone deserves happiness, it's you too, Rhea," Lyria said gently, stepping into view from the shadows. Her expression was calm but tinged with sadness. "I owe you an apology for dismissing your feelings, for acting as though my claim on Calvin somehow invalidates yours." Rhea blinked, caught off guard. "Wait, what?" Lyria moved closer, taking a seat on the other side of Kalen. "Love isn't a finite resource," she continued, her gaze steady. "It doesn't diminish when shared. In fact, it grows stronger, richer. What we have, the bond we share, it's extraordinary. All three of us. Why should we let fear or tradition dictate how we choose to live our lives?" Kalen stared at her, stunned. He'd never imagined such words coming from a princess, let alone one raised in the rigid hierarchy of an alien monarchy. But there was no doubt in his mind that she meant every word. "You're serious?" Rhea asked skeptically, though her tone softened. "You'd really share him with me?" Lyria nodded, reaching out to take Rhea's hand. "If you'll have us, together, we can build something beautiful, something beyond boundaries or expectations." For a moment, Rhea looked torn between laughing and crying. Then, slowly, a small smile tugged at the corners of her mouth. "Well, hell, this is gonna make for one hell of a story." Their decision wasn't met without resistance. Queen Zarnitha was furious, her antennae twitching violently as she railed against the idea of a triad marriage involving not only her daughter but also a human and a rogue pilot. The courtiers whispered furiously among themselves, scandalized by the unprecedented arrangement. Even Torvax raised an eyebrow, though he kept his opinions to himself. But Lyria stood firm, her resolve unwavering. "Mother," she declared during one particularly heated argument, "this isn't about defiance or rebellion. It's about unity, about showing our people that love transcends species, titles, and traditions. If we can embrace change, then perhaps others will follow." Zarnitha glared at her, frustration warring with pride. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she relented. Not because she agreed, but because she saw the determination in her daughter's eyes. "Do as you wish," she snapped. But do not expect me to sanction this absurdity. Despite the initial backlash, the trio pressed forward, determined to carve out a life together. With Lyria's influence, they brokered a fragile peace between humans and the alien empire, using the revelations from Sector 7 as a catalyst for cooperation rather than conflict. Ancient technologies discovered within the ruins proved invaluable, ushering in an era of unprecedented progress and understanding. As for Kalen, Rhea, and Lyria, they eventually left the politics and scrutiny of the palace behind, seeking solace in a quiet corner of the galaxy. They settled on a lush planet with rolling green hills and crystalline lakes, far removed from the chaos of interstellar diplomacy. There, they built a home filled with laughter, warmth, and the pitter-patter of tiny feet. Over the years, their family grew, first with one child, then another, each a perfect blend of their parents' traits. Some inherited Kalen's adventurous spirit, while others carried Rhea's sharp wit or Lyria's regal grace. Together, they created a legacy rooted not in power or prestige, but in love, compassion, and unity. On clear nights, they would gather outside, gazing up at the stars as stories of their adventures were passed down to wide-eyed children. And though challenges still arose, from old prejudices to new threats, they faced them together, bound by a bond stronger than any force in the universe. In the end, their unconventional love became a beacon of hope, a testament to the idea that even in a vast and often divided galaxy, hearts could find common ground. As Kalen held Lyria's hand in one of his and Rhea's in the other, he knew they had achieved something truly remarkable, a life lived not just for themselves, but for the future they had forged together. And so, beneath the endless expanse of stars, they thrived, not as royalty or rebels, but as a family united by love, laughter, and the courage to defy convention. Their story became legend, whispered across worlds and generations, proof that sometimes the most extraordinary journeys begin with a single impossible choice.